We are going to need your questions for the final segment because today I have a flight to catch, and I will be leaving before the last segment, flying out of Easterwood at 2 o'clock and then to Dallas and then to New York City for the weekend where I will be spending some time with the New York City Texas A&M Club. My first weekend ever in New York City. I anticipate it's very much going to be country comes to town. And from what I understand, the New York City A&M Club is going to do all they can to make me feel as much at home as possible. Texas Independence Day celebration up there in New York City as the front table. Hey, you know what? Y'all should love to be like me, right? No, oh, God, man. Even on the day that I have to leave early, they're still as ornery as ever, and I appreciate every one of them for being here every Monday and Thursday with us. Lots to get to as the NFL Combine starts today. It seems like the biggest piece of news this morning has been the height of Kylar Murray and the hand size of Kylar Murray, which is odd to me. But he did check in about the same size as six-time Pro Bowler Russell Wilson of the Seattle Seahawks. So good news for Kylar, maybe bad news for Josh Rosen at Arizona with Cliff Kingsbury there now, and be very interesting to see what happens with that first overall pick. Because to me, there isn't a guy that jumps off the board as a surefire number one. And even though that the Cardinals went quarterback in the first pick last year, could they go back to Kyler with Cliff on staff as we welcome in Mr. Billy Liucci?
Bronny?
I
was just talking to –
yeah, how ridiculous
talking to our boy Jacob Kristen, and he said, "Oh, it's funny. I just was right when you called. I heard the intro to your song, the radio show coming on."
Oh,
yeah.
Well, yeah, it means
I'm pulling up.
Yeah.
Well,
Kyler
Murray
measures in.
Wait. I don't like starting going all serious business here.
Okay.
Kyler's
Take your shot.
5'10.1". I'm just saying.
What's wrong with this starter jacket?
Say, are you going to wear that in New York?
Yes.
No, you're not.
Why?
Because I'm not going to allow that. I don't want Texas A&M being represented in the largest city in the U.S., the most populous city, the Big Apple, the city that never sleeps, with some giant. I mean, I'm all for representation. This will be the most loud, bodacious statement Texas A&M has made in New York City.
And they love it.
Since they put Johnny on the billboard in Times Square.
Or since you lost the game of three-card Monty on the corner in 98 before the Florida State game.
They're like, remember that time they had – there's like, God, man, this is the second time I've seen some billboard in Times Square about A&M. They did it with Manziel in 2012, and now with this starter jacket with the largest. It's the whole back. For those listening, the whole back. I walk in, and the whole back of this I got shiny maroon jacket.
It's like from the early 90s.
Texas A&M Aggies.
Look at this. Look at that logo.
I do like the logo. Like the logo.
I brought other jackets, but the other one that I was going to wear up there tonight was a camo jacket, which you would have torn to pieces too. I don't have any Italian jackets.
They're saying buy you a new one.
Buy a new one. This was plenty expensive.
Yeah, I know. They're saying just so you have a different one.
No, I got. Don't worry about my hat.
Guys, I can't wait to get Bronny back so we can talk about his trip. But after we go off air, I've got some suggested restaurants. I've been keeping you in mind. I got places that you can just go meet only that I think would still be worth it.
Well, I think my whole weekend is about planned.
Is it really?
In terms
People
of
taking you to dinner?
Yeah. And all the stuff that I've read on the places we're going, they're very highly reviewed.
Okay, we'll
going
talk
to a
about
comedy club, which I feel like is kind of New York City-ish.
Yeah, They've
had some famous people go through there.
It's not for me, but a lot of people love that.
Yeah, and I've never been to one, so
I've never been, and I would love to go to a good Broadway show. Problem is,
that's not my taste.
I don't ever have I've never brought like a girlfriend up there to New York. So what am I going to do? Go to a show with all my guys or my cousins? So I want to go to a show.
Quickly, tell the story. And we got some sports stuff we can get to, but I do want you to tell the story you told me on the phone yesterday about, Liucci calls me, and it's not hello, what's going on, what's the latest, what have you heard on the recruiting stuff. It is call and immediately either make fun of me or tell me the most wild story he can. And yesterday he said, I just said hello, and he said, don't get caught up in a game of 3-card Monte on the street corner with my cousin Chubby and Rocco. So was it your cousin? Who was
They
it?
didn't. I said they had a history of their little thing was to find those guys that were playing those shell games, and they'd kind of play them with them, and then as soon as the guy would they pull out their money to show you. Like, look, I got this. You can win. You know, they got like a wad of cash. Well, those little ruffian cousins of mine would, when they were kids, like teenage, like in like 8th, 9th grade, like young, but they'd go like a group of them, and they'd go to the city, which is like, you know, it's like 18 miles to the city, so it's like 30 minutes by train or whatever, 45. They'd go in there, and they would just go around and find the guys playing that game. When the guy would pull out the money show, one of them would just punch the guy in the face, and they'd take the wad of money and take off. And that was their thing, which is fine in my world, because to me the guys are just sitting out there hustling kind tourists out of their money anyway.
Games. And then it happened to you in 98, right, before the A&M game.
So 98, we go in. It's my buddies, one from Louisiana and one that I grew up with. And I want to say their names so bad because they would, but one of them was like a former 12th man. And we go down there, and they're playing. Well, I've got like $100 cash hidden in my wallet, like behind something. So my whole shtick was, I don't have any money, but y'all should play this. And so one of our buddies was playing it, and you know, they're doing it, and you know, oh, I want that card, and they just ignore you if it's the right card, and they keep going, and finally, you know, you got to for that you got to give him. It's got that. You want to win this, you got to pay $100. And so I was like, and I'm like, play it. And he's like, I don't have any more. I tell my other buddy, put it down. He's like, I don't. I go, how much you got? He's like, I got 75. Put it. It's the middle one. He puts it down, and they just ignore him, and then they keep going. And finally, it's like, all right, now I've lost track. And they're like, which one? Now you're just guessing. And still, if you guess right, they would still keep
shuffling.
So. Anyway, long story short, they flipped the card. The 30 people around there, oh, you lost, you know. And my buddy's pissed because he's like, I said that one. You wouldn't pick it. That's the one. 'Cause he was right.
Yeah.
And it was the guy that was 12th man. He was just starting to play. I think he was redshirting maybe. So
that was before the first game you ever had to write for.
And he gets pissed off, and he's like, man. And he's like, I'm not leaving. He's like, boy, how about I kick your ass? And the guy comes up. He's like, man, some other guy walks up, and you look up, and now there's like 5 or 6 guys around us. And he goes, yeah, man, you don't want to try that. And he you look, and it's just like a bunch of dudes. And my friend's like, all right. And we just leave. I'm like, it's okay. We're going to have some good pizza when we get over to mine.
So he walked away $150 cheap less.
My friends did.
Poor.
I got out scot-free. It was the worst. And so they wouldn't let me live it down. We go to my cousin's house, and my uncle, they tell the story, and he just rolls his eyes and laughs at him. And then my cousin says, you guys should have done what we do.
Any reaction to Kylar this morning?
A little taller. I would not have bet the 5'10" cutoff. I didn't know. I could have seen him coming in at 5'9.5". That was about as tall as I thought he would be.
The 9-inch hands is good.
I thought they were 9. Were they 9 or 9.5?
Maybe 9.5.
9.5.
It was good, whatever the number was.
Yeah, because that's their big. You know, the NFL. They're so concerned about
Johnny's
that.
big deal was he had enormous hands.
Yeah, and with a shorter guy, they were.
Do you think he goes? Do you think Cliff will take him?
I've been talking to people. I haven't talked to Cliff. Obviously, I'm not going to bother him with that because he's not going to tell me, and I don't want him. Actually, Cliff probably would, and then I'd have to walk around with that secret. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, it's tough. You're really staking your entire
coaching NFL
tenure
at
Arizona, and maybe your NFL career on him. And that's not understating it. I mean, that's not overstating it. I mean, you really are. Because the Cardinals, you can tell, have kind of they've kind of backed Rosen publicly and probably told Cliff he needs to too. So if if they go away from that, it's going to be a lot of it, I would think, is going to be on his shoulders, whether it works or doesn't. And
it's not like Rosen doesn't fit what he wants to do or can't make all the throws that Cliff wants to make.
I agree, but I'm going to tell you what Cliff likes. Cliff, when he got to A&M, Johnny Manziel was going to be his quarterback. It was never going to be Jamil, and I don't mean that as it was decided, but I mean Cliff wants a quarterback with that juice. It doesn't have to be – he doesn't have to run and do off – but he has to just have that it factor. He has to have like that just – I've talked to Dan Campbell about it. Dan, I guarantee you if Dan, of all the jobs he interviewed for, it would have been the Browns because they have Baker. And Dan loved Johnny coming out. They weren't drafting him at Miami. They had Tannehill, and he wasn't in charge of the draft. But Dan wants a quarterback with that intangible, that, hey, get behind me, that I want the ball right now because it's the fourth quarter and I want to win. We're up by 21. I want to be up by 28 on this. That. And whatever it is, we all knew when Johnny started playing that he had it. Just for another name drop, Tim Tebow has told me the story twice now. He said, I knew Manziel was special, like nothing I'd ever seen before. After the first drive, I was watching the Florida game because it was Florida. I called my brother, and I told him, this guy, I forget if he said this guy's going to win a Heisman or this guy's going to be one of the all-time great. But he said, I called my brother after. You know what it was? It was a field goal drive to start that game, and he knew. That it factor. Kylar has it. Mm-hmm. Baker had it.
Does Rosen.
Johnny has it. I don't know that Rosen has it. And I
saw him have it in the Rose Bowl.
But he didn't. In my opinion, here's the deal.
Yeah, he should have had an interception.
He should have thrown 4 interceptions. He should have thrown 4 interceptions in that game. In the second half, during the comeback. The team never really rallied around Rosen. I mean, yeah, for that half a play, again, after A&M helped him with several drop picks. But it just – does he have that it? And I guarantee you, for Cliff, that's got to be tough. That's got to be tough.
On the other side of the break, we'll get into who's got that it factor on this 2019 Texas A&M football roster and much more on the Aggies in the Combine. Listen to Beliucci Hour Lunch live on The Zone.